It was a scorching afternoon, the kind where the air feels like it's cooking you from the inside out. I was in the middle of a high-stakes VY call with a client, my laptop screen glowing with spreadsheets, when the world went dark. The lights flickered once, twice, then died. My router gave up the ghost, and my air conditioner wheezed to a stop. No, no, no. I muttered, sweat already beading on my forehead. It was 98 degrees Fahrenheit outside, and my house was about to turn into an oven. I grabbed my phone, excused myself from the call, and bolted outside to check the breaker box. That's when I saw her Lydia Harper, our HOA president, standing by the neighborhood's utility box, a heavy padlock dangling from her manicured fingers. She snapped the lock shut just as I stormed across my lawn, my flip-flops slapping against the pavement. "Lydia, what the hell are you doing? My power's out, and I'm in the middle of a work call," I shouted, my voice cracking with frustration. She turned, her platinum blonde bob unmo VYing, and flashed a smile so smug it could curdle milk. "Well, Michael, I've been tracking energy usage in the neighborhood, and your house is sucking up more than its fair share. It's a violation of our community standards, and, as president, I'm taking care of it." Her words hit me like a slap. "You can't just cut someone's power. That's illegal," I snapped, my hands balling into fists. She tapped her ever-present HOA rulebook with a perfectly polished nail. "Actually, Section 12, Paragraph 3 gives me authority to address threats to community resources." She clutched the padlock key like it was a trophy. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before setting up unauthorized equipment." I was floored. She meant my home server, which I needed for my remote IT job, and the small solar-powered greenhouse I'd built for my daughter, Sophie, and me. As a single dad, that server kept food on the table, and the greenhouse grew fresh veggies hardly the stuff of HOA nightmares. I moved into this neighborhood 6 months ago, hoping for a fresh start, but Lydia had it out for me from day one. It started when I turned down her creepy neighborhood compliance club, a group of nosy residents who acted like her personal spies. Ever since, she'd been on my case, slapping notices on my door for unauthorized tech, grid strain, and improper energy use. Each one was more absurd than the last, and my neighbors, too scared of her wrath, just gave me pitying looks. "You've got 24 hours to ditch the server and greenhouse," Lydia said, dropping the key into her purse with a flourish. "Then we can talk about your power." She strutted back to her pristine house across the street, Leah VYing me fuming. I called the power company, but they were useless since the shutoff was at the community breaker. It was HOA property. They told me to call the board, which was about as helpful as asking Lydia herself. That night, Sophie and I camped out in the Lee VYing room, windows open, the heat suffocating us. I kept picturing the food rotting in our fridge, and the work deadline I was now at risk of missing. The next morning, I was poking around the fuse box, desperate for a workaround, when I noticed something chilling: fingerprints and fresh scratch marks that hadn't been there before. I marched to Lydia's house, ignoring her "keep off grass" sign, and confronted her. She didn't even blink. "As HOA president, I can inspect potential hazards," she said, her eyes cold as ice. "Your energy use is a safety risk to the entire neighborhood." I demanded to see the rule that let her trespass or mess with my electrical system. She just crossed her arms. "I don't answer to rule breakers. Remove your equipment, or your power stays off." By day 3, I was done. The heat was unbearable. Sophie was staying with her mom, and I was working out of coffee shops to scrape by. I called an electrician, hoping for a miracle. When Joe, the electrician, arrived, his jaw dropped. "This isn't just a shutoff," he said, pointing to mangled wires. "Someone cut your connection and rerouted it badly. This could have started a fire." He showed me sloppy splice marks, the kind of amateur work that screamed danger. That was it. I called the city utilities department and filed a report. The next day, an inspector named Carlos rolled up in a city truck, and Lydia lost it. She came charging over, rulebook in hand, screeching, "This is an HOA matter. The city has no business here." Carlos, a grizzled pro who'd clearly dealt with her type before, just smirked. "Ma'am, tampering with power lines is a city, state, and federal issue, not an HOA one." As Carlos inspected the damage, neighbors started creeping out of their houses. They spilled stories of Lydia's reign of terror-fake violations, threats of fines, even sneaking into homes for inspections when people were away. The biggest shock came from Ethan, the HOA treasurer, who admitted Lydia had been acting alone for months, claiming the board had voted via email when no such votes existed. "We've been too scared to challenge her," he mumbled. When Carlos confirmed the tampering was deliberate and dangerous, he called the utility company and the cops. Hours later, 2 officers showed up. Their VYEU Joe's photos, Carlos's report, and statements from me and the neighbors. Then they marched across the street to Lydia's house. I'll never forget the sight of her, still clutching her rulebook, being led to the cruiser. "I was protecting our community," she shrieked. "The property values. The grid." The officers weren't buying it. They charged her with criminal trespassing, tampering with utility equipment, and reckless endangerment, a last one, because her shoddy wiring could have burned down the block. The utility crew restored my power that evening, and as my AC kicked back on, Ethan and the board apologized profusely. "We're holding an emergency meeting to boot her out," he said. "This is way past HOA business." 3 weeks later, I sat in a packed courtroom for Lydia's preliminary hearing. She tried to play the VY Tim, insisting she was just enforcing rules, but the judge wasn't VYing it. Then the prosecutor dropped a bombshell. Forensic accountants had uncovered that Lydia had been siphoning HOA funds for years, paying her own utility bills and more. Gasps echoed through the room. The kicker? Her house was illegally wired to steal electricity from the community pool house, SAVY, in her thousands, while she accused me of overuse. The math showed she'd swiped about $12,000 in electricity over 3 years. The irony was thicker than the summer heat. Lydia's face went white as the judge denied bail, citing plane tickets to Bali found in her home as EVY Denke. She might bolt. "The defendant will remain in custody," he declared, listing charges that could land her 7 years in prison: utility theft, embezzlement, reckless endangerment, and trespassing. As they cuffed her, she locked eyes with me, her perfect facade crumbling. Tears streaked her mascara as she mouthed, "This isn't over." But we both knew it was. So what do you think? Was Lydia just a control freak gone too far? Or did she genuinely believe she was SAVYing the neighborhood? Should HOAs have the power to mess with utilities? Or is that a line they should never cross? And what about the neighbors who stayed silent? Were they complicit, or just VY Tims of her intimidation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story got your blood pumping, and subscribe for more wild tales like this one.